Hi there, my name's Ed Charlwood and this is the second video that Joe's asked me to make. The first video was a real basics introduction to CAD and Tinkercad, and this one's slightly more advanced. If you've used CAD before, then this is a good place to start. If you haven't used any CAD before, then I suggest you go back and look at the introductory one. In the first video, we looked at Tinkercad, how to get into it, so I'm going to presume that you know how to do that, and today I'm going to show you a few more kind of advanced features. The first thing you're going to need to know if you're doing this with classes of under 13s is how to set up a class. And the reason is that because it's an American piece of software that you have to use logins that are not linked to any names or personal information. But don't worry, it's really easy to do. If you're signed up as an educator, you'll see classes and classrooms here. I'm going to click on classrooms and I'm going to go to classrooms. And it's as straightforward as creating a new class. Class 1, you can call it whatever age you want, any subject you like, and create class. And once you've got your class, you can go and add students to the class. So all you need to do is give them a name, add them in one by one, create your class like so, or you can paste a list of them. And when I'm ready, I can either give them a link to get into the class. I can put the link up on the screen, and all they need to do is go to that code or to that link and then use the nickname that you've given them. That will then allow them to get into their classes. What you'll get is once you've set up a class, you'll be able to see what they've done in their class as well, and get a monitor of their dashboard. So it's quite a useful tool, but they always need to go in this way. It can get a bit confusing if they try to go and use their own accounts, so insist they always go in through the link and the code that you've given them. I suggest getting them to write it down in the front of their diary or something like that. So in the first video, we looked at how to create some simple designs, and I'm going to show you a few of the more advanced features and designs today. We looked at circuits, and I'll show you some of the circuits. I'll also show you a little bit later on a tool in here called code blocks. So I'm just going to go back and create a new 3D design. I'll just very quickly show you a few features. Remember, navigating the workspace is really important and something that students find difficult if they haven't done much 3D kind of work before playing Minecraft or anything like that. So it's worth just reiterating the basics of how to navigate the screen. They can then also drag their shapes in, like so. And one thing we need to start to master are some of the tools up at the top here. If I highlight all my shapes and click on align, you will see some dots appear, and these dots allow me to align my objects in different angles. So in this case, you can see they're perfectly aligned, they're all on top of each other, all laid out. If I move them apart and do the same thing again, I can then align them along one axis. That's a really useful tool for making things go where you want them to. The other thing that's useful to do is the mirror tool. If I take my objects and press mirror, I can choose where I want to mirror them. In that case, I mirrored them. So in this case, I'm mirroring my two shapes by flipping them over. If I extend my shapes by copying and pasting them, it's a bit more obvious. So I'm mirroring, flipping them over each time. The last tool that's really good to master is the grouping. When we group together, we can group solids to make them into a new solid. And we can also group holes which will remove solids. You can start to see how you get some really quick constructional geometry going on. When I group these, you'll see sections are taken away instead of added. There's a really cool feature hidden in Tinkercad. That feature is called code blocks. And code blocks, if you want to do any computing, is a really interesting way of designing using variables. There are some already built in. Basically, you can design in a bit like Scratch. That our shapes can go through, and when we play through, we will see our different shapes being built in accordance with the code blocks that we put in here. So it's a really nice way of just playing around with some coding, and you will find all sorts of activities already built in here. For example, how to make a brick. You can see it playing through the code in order to create the brick. So it's a really interesting way of combining Tinkercad and coding, which might also cover a few national curriculum areas for you. The last thing I wanted to show you was just to go back and revisit some of the projects that are available in Tinkercad. If your students get really adept at Tinkercad and they want to start to learn more about it, there are tons and tons of different lessons and projects that students can try. So you can go through and try and find one that'd be the right level for your students. Or of course you could go and try and design one of your own and make your own challenge. But there's some really good, well thought out lessons that you can rely on in here. You'll also see lesson plans with a lot more detail in them, should you want to kind of take it a bit further, or you wanted to think about how you could use Tinkercad to support maybe your design in maths, for example. So you can go and see some maths examples that might be really useful for just interleaving a bit of knowledge and understanding. If you're working on an iPad, you can get a really good choice, which you can't see on a desktop like I'm working on, which is to see the augmented reality. You can place your objects in real life. So, for example, you could create a piece of furniture, place it in your room, in your classroom, and have a look around it. And that's what you could do if you have the iPad app. The last thing I want to show you is a new feature that's just come out in Tinkercad. It's called the SimLab. In the SimLab, what you can do is apply physics to your designs. And you're going to find it by using this Apple logo up on the screen. I'll show you an example of a design that I came up with to play the SimLab. You could easily see, hopefully, how this could be a physics experiment. I've created a seesaw model, just using a cylinder and a plank across the top. If I go into the SimLab, I can decide what materials things are going to be. So I can click and I can say this one's going to be made out of concrete, and this one's going to be made out of steel. And then when I press the play button, you're going to be able to see this experiment take place. And we can see what happens when we run through. Let's just slow ourselves down and replay it if we want to, and see what happens as we go through. Interesting things in here, talking about friction and density. It's a nice way of kind of doing physics experiments without having to actually get hands-on if we don't have those things available to us. So in summary, Tinkercad is a really fantastic tool. It's all free. If you want to use it with students, I really recommend you set yourself up first of all and experiment and play around. I would experiment with the things that are in the gallery. So for example, I've been creating a cell, so we can use it in AR and explore the different parts of the cell. And you could create your own, or you could use one from the gallery. It's a really nice use of it. You've got the area in there to do electronics and play with circuits and microbits and Arduinos. And you've got code blocks you can get into as well. And the whole thing's got tons of tutorials you can go through and learn. If you need any help to get going, Joe's got my email address. I'm edcharlwood@gmail.com. But I hope you get on really well with using Tinkercad and enjoy.